Good morning, everybody. Jimi Hendrix, and this begins a series called Oattern Realm Engaged. And this is a special one that goes out to me, to all of you guys. I'm Jimi Hendrix, and this is advice for the lonely dreamer on Empower Your Pattern 2.0. Hi, I'm Jimi Hendrix, Success Confidence and Thrive Coach, member of the Church of Jesus Christ and Latter-day Saints, and founder of James A. Hendrix Empowerment. I believe their patterns help us to see more, help us live a better and extraordinary life. And I also wish to give spiritual and technical tips to help you overcome the adversities in everyday life. So if you come with me, I'll show you these patterns. Let's go. Hey everybody, welcome on board. Oattern Realm here. I'm Jimmy, your Success, Confidence, and Thrive Coach. And I'm glad to be discussing this topic when I'm a little bit more, well, how do I say it? A little bit more sane. Where I've just come out of another lonely spell, and with that now can provide some perspective. Okay, so I want you to grab your beverage, like a Kool-Aid or soda, or even carbonated water or something, and sit down. Let me talk to you guys. Loneliness is a hard subject to deal with, and I don't think a lot of thought leaders know how to deal with it. Really, in a constructive way. Loneliness is, in some ways, a state of mind. But I think that, in some cases, loneliness is brought into adversity. And while we're at it, let's go ahead and define loneliness. I'm not sure how well this will work. Usually when I like to define something, I use the old Noah Webster dictionary. Because there it is. Here's his definition. Solitude, retirement, seclusion from company. Well, I think the problem is even back in the time of the founding fathers, we didn't know the difference between loneliness and solitude. And what's funny is, it was in early 2006, and I was seeing a therapist who's a member of the church when I was in graduate school. And he told me, he said, Jimmy, no offense, but I think it would really benefit you. I think it would really benefit you if you could sit there and determine to know the difference between loneliness and solitude. And so he asked me to be intentional to note which one. And he says, solitude feels better. So if you're by yourself and no one can be with you, try to shoot for some of those better times of solitude. And so I was intentional about that for a while. And then, this was back in February of 2006. And in September of 2006, I had my major breakdown, which ultimately caused me to be diagnosed with bipolar disorder. And I was talking to my sister about it, and she said, look, you start getting lonely and depressed, you need to pray. That's all there is to it. You just need to pray. Now, yes, you can feel lonely and be in a crowd of people. I've experienced that. But then again, there is another type of loneliness. And this loneliness is the feeling that you don't really fit in anywhere else. This is whether you're by yourself or with someone else, okay? So it's really a complicated subject. But it's this type of loneliness, something which I faced, which I want to advise you guys. The first thing I want to tell you is this. Absolutely seek the Lord. Let me tell you something. I was 9 years old. My parents at the time were house parents at this youth home in Midland, Texas. And one of the kids had a father who was a minister. And he was going to talk to the youth about praying. But I had this burning desire to know about prayer. This is before, according to my Baptist faith tradition, that I got saved and became a Christian, right? I asked him about prayer. And so, at that point, beginning at age 9, when I started feeling down, I would start praying. So, absolutely seeking the Lord, that's one thing that's going to help you. Because I'm going to tell you this, before I ran across that pastor and that youth home, I didn't know what to do. The only thing I knew to do was just sit there and cry. And then, when I was 11, I got saved according to, the Baptist tradition, which, to me, that's the beginning of being saved. And then I hit another dark spell. I was in high school at the time. I was in 11th grade. December 20th, 1989. I remember my daddy dropped me off at Permian High School. It was early in the morning, about 6:30 in the morning. And I walked the halls. And I walked the hall where my locker was. I stood by my locker and I closed my eyes. I had this horrible sense that something was wrong. But I would just try to block it out. But when I came home from school, it was like things were kind of odd. An aunt from my daddy's side picking me up. I thought, well, maybe my brother broke his arm again. Silly little thoughts like that, And then we brought up to the house. And in tears, Mama announces that our maternal grandfather had passed away. And I mean, a deep loneliness set in. And this was one of those lonelinesses that did not go away for 2 years. 2 years almost. I started to feel like I didn't fit in the school crowd. I started hanging out with the wrong crowd. And luckily, Mama was able to make some course corrections and all that stuff. Okay? And here's the beauty of it, okay? Here's the beauty of it. Of course, I thought, well, hanging out with, this is about the time I was at summer school, Texas School for the Blind, is my last year. I thought, hanging out with hoodlums isn't taking me very far. Well, I thought I would start dating this girl. You know, she seems kind of cultured, and sometimes I really like her. Her name was, we're going to give her the name of Holly Hawthorne, okay? This is a note to my alter ego. Sorry, JR, but I had to borrow that. And then, I really liked Holly. I thought, well, she's probably the answer to my loneliness. And then I started noticing how she was interacting with my family and other people, and I thought, well, this ain't gonna work out. We had started dating in July of 1990, but by September of 2021, after I told her, hey, you're going to have to stop being, so tacky to me and my family. Well, she broke it off. And the loneliness was pretty deep. But then, this is the beauty of it. I meet a new best friend. Brian Keith Cotton. And he would keep challenging me to get out there and get to know people on my college campus and get out of my shell. And so, after 2 years of this intense loneliness and just doing wrong things, I finally started thinking, well, I should associate with right people. Here's another season of loneliness. And this one began in December of 1994. I got the premonition in my mind's eye that my grandmother at some point was going to die. I didn't want to admit it to myself. And I was crushed. It's silly what I did, back then. But I was angry at God. Okay. And and I was in college at the time, I was a junior in college, and I began living with this guy named, we're going to give him the pseudonym, Charlie Nation. And Charlie Nation was angry at God too. So we just hung around, and our idea of a party was just sitting there watching TV all the time and munching on, potato chips and listen to the radio, listen to heavy metal music and all that crazy stuff. And my grades were suffering, everything was suffering. I had stopped going to church. And then, in May of 1995, when my grandmother discovered what happened, she wouldn't criticize or condemn Charlie Nation, but she did insist I get back in church. Because she told me, she said, son, God didn't do this to me. I did this to myself. So, don't you go blaming God for something that I did. So I got back in church and everything, and I thought, well, well, everything will be okay. I won't be so lonely. But it was there. No matter what, it was there. And I tried covering it up with more activity and staying busy in school that fall. But especially when I got back to college, other than the Tuesday night Bible studies and the encounter with a classmate of mine named Kevin, I couldn't shake it. And that thing lasted until about the 31st of March of 1996. I had gone to church wanting a special feeling, a special move of God on my life. I thought for sure I'd get it. And when I didn't, okay, my grandmother had died, the previous November. I felt like I was scraping at the bottom of the barrel. Nothing was working. And I thought that I would be in a lot better. Oh, it's going to be okay. It'll go away. And then, here's the craziness about it. That night on the 31st, I sat there in my dorm bathroom, my own private bathroom in my dorm room. And I did one final prayer to the Lord. I said, Lord, if you don't want me to do this, stop it. I was going to take myself out that night. And the Lord said, get out, drive yourself out. I want you to first turn on the radio, and then I want you to turn on the TV. So I turned on the radio, and what should appear? But they were interviewing this local expert about suicide prevention. And I started thinking, hey, the Lord stopped this for a reason. There's no sense of me thinking of something foolish like that. And so, all came to a head the 5th of April of 1996, when I began to fall in love with my ex-wife for the second time. And 3 days later, I asked her out. And I thought, well, maybe my lonely days are gone. Okay. Here is my third lonely season. I guess I'm going to skip some of the ones I always talk about, like my divorce and stuff, and talk about one I'm going through now. And some of the things that I've determined. We all know that in 2020, COVID-19, or it's what I and a good friend of mine affectionately call it, the devil virus, because that's what it is. Comes from the pits of hell, comes from the fires of hell. When that virus hit and we was all placed on lockdowns, I couldn't help but notice how tense things were going on during the ensuing months with members of my family. And I thought, well, this will pass. But the loneliness came back, and I thought, well, I'm miserable, and there must be something wrong with me. Something to where I'm so depraved that nobody would want me. You see, I talked about this a couple of episodes back, about the intrusive thoughts, and especially when you're lonely and you're going through through adversities, those intrusive thoughts, the critters from hell come back. Okay, More about how to deal with that at some other episode. But I tried online dating to deal with it because, well-meaning friends said to do that. And I got burned. I thought, well, maybe not online dating anymore. And so I told you the idea. And then in May of last year, 2021, an adoptive aunt on Mama's side of the family was really a cousin by marriage, but she is more like Mama's sister. She came and got Mama, and brought her home to East Texas to be with her. A few months later, my nephew also announced that he was moving to that same area to be with his dad. And so, really, from September 2021 until this month, off and on, I've sat there and done battle. Because I was going through some things, in late October, we had a change of ward boundaries. A ward is a congregation. And then a few months later, a close friend of mine who you've heard on the show, Bishop Dave, he announced that he was also moving. And you talk about crush. I was like, okay, this is beyond nuts, and I don't like this at all. So some other points. Number 2, you really need to believe in yourselves during those times, and believe you can succeed. You say, "Oh, Jimmy, what in the world? I mean, come on! I just got through telling you that I'm lonely." I get that. But what you need to do is start filling yourself with some faith-filled stuff so that you can start believing in yourself. Okay, because you're not done for. You can succeed, my friends. You're on this quest with me. You're a lonely dreamer. I get it. The pain is unbearable. And I hear it. Your heart is broken. Some people say, well, if you're lonely, your heart's not necessarily broken. I'm sorry, but I disagree. Because when you're lonely, your heart is broken. Okay? You get it? You get it? Number 3. Through association with the right people. Go get the clues for success. Go get those clues. And while you're getting those clues, you need to deal with those intrusive thoughts. The little critters from hell will just say, well, we'll just keep dumping on you till you deal with this. You deal with those, and at the same time, hunt for the clues for success. And there you go. There you go. Number 5, separate your different types of friends. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. There's some friends that are good to hang out with, but they're not necessarily going to be, the friends that are just absolutely interested in your success. They're just chill out buddies. I mean, they're down with you and everything, but, they're not going to be in the trenches with you as much. But your success buddies will show you what needs to be done to improve, if you know what I mean. So that's the thing. That's the thing. Number 6. And this is very important to me. Follow the CAP method in dealing with negative thoughts that create loneliness. And I've spoken about it in depth. I got the time to really do it too much now. But at some point, maybe on my website, I will give you an example of what self-coaching I do. In fact, I make sure that if I can find one that's a strict log, I will share that and put that on my WordPress site, okay? Now with that, I hope you enjoy listening to Empower Your Pattern 2.0. If you like what you hear, please subscribe, become a part of Oattern Realm. This is Jimi Hendrix saying until next time, do what others don't, seek to be what others want. And do what others want so you can have what others can. Choose, act, and pursue happiness. God bless each and every single one of you. Hang in there.